Hello, board members. My name is Melanie Knight, and I was brought in by the CEO to consult on the possible implementation of new services at Metropolis Health System. In this presentation, I will evaluate current operations and financial trends. Using this information, I will make recommendations regarding areas of service which should be implemented first. Before doing this, let's review current services provided at the organization. From the current services provided, it's clear that Metropolis Health System is dedicated to the community of preserving the health of Metropolis's people. This is reflected in the wide array of services offered for comprehensive care. First off, Rehabilitation and Wellness Center. This is really important for restoring a normal way of life for individuals through outpatient PT, return to work services, cardiac and pulmonary rehabilitation. Also, home health services are very important, providing skilled in-home care, which is more comfortable, affordable, and convenient for patients. Similarly, same-day surgery allows for outpatient procedures, avoiding that inpatient part, which is usually more expensive and not as fun for patients. So this is definitely more affordable and appealing. And then there's skilled nursing facility. These are also really important, providing inpatient services for rehabilitation, helping them return to a more independent lifestyle. Moving on, community health and wellness is also a program offered at this organization. They provide a lot of education and outreach to patients. So really, really good for community and population health. There's also occupational health services, which offers work-specific rehabilitation, as well as injury avoidance consultations, really reducing costs of work injuries. And finally, recovery services are offered. They provide a lot of mental health and substance abuse support for patients through support groups, counseling. So overall, really, Metropolis Health System appears to embody holistic care through all these services, a lot of different aspects of healthcare, which is really important to a lot of people. We know kind of what the organization is currently providing. Let's look at some financial statements to observe financial operations and trends that are going on in the organization. Let's look at first the income statement, which summarizes the company's revenues and expenses over a given period of time. Specifically here, I've attached it in the slide here from 2022 to 2023. Metropolis Health System has seen notable increase in total operating revenue, as well as a decrease in total expenses. So really, net income is increasing over the span of these two time periods. There was also a significant increase in operating margin, which is an important measure of profitability by dividing the operating income from total revenue. This value nearly doubled, as you can see on the slide, from 2.43% to 4.84%. These margins are still rather narrow, so I think we can do better. Additional revenue source with minimal expenses could be beneficial to this organization. The balance sheet is also an important financial statement to observe here. It's a good indicator of financial well-being. A notable trend that I had noticed over time was an increase in both current and total assets. Cash and cash equivalents significantly increased from $400,000 to $1.15 million. So this is a pretty sizable increase we're seeing here. But there was also significant decreases in current and total liabilities. As a result, the organization's current ratio increased, which points to liquidity improvements. As you can see on this slide, current ratio increased from 1.583 to 1.824. So that's definitely a good sign of more liquidity, more cash, which is always good. The last financial statement I want to just look over and highlight a few things on is the cash flow statement, which really focuses on all cash inflows and outflows. As mentioned previously, we are seeing an increase in cash and cash equivalents. Specifically on here, you can see specifically $750,000 increase in cash and cash equivalents. So that's pretty sizable. I also want to note that the organization is investing largely in equipment and maintenance expenses, as well as long-term debt obligations. So these expenses are, pretty big and pretty important to note when making any investment recommendations. So just keep that in mind as we go through some possible areas of improvement for the organization. Now, knowing this information that we discussed previously, there are 3 services I believe should be prioritized for implementation. The first area of expansion I would recommend should be for community health services. Not only does this align with the organization's philosophy of prevention over treatment, but the capital requirement is low. Since community health is pre-existing at the organization and there's really no major equipment needed, startup expenses should be relatively low, especially since community health services requires more time and commitment to really cultivate it and make it effective. I think this organization should focus on expanding it now rather than getting services fully established later on. Really grow that relationship with the community and build those programs, build those supportive resources. Also, this service line really promotes value-based care, which will not only demonstrate the organization's dedication to the community, but also subsequently increase patients' loyalty to the organization. For future business, having a solid relationship with the community will only benefit profitability. And as a patient of healthcare myself, value-based care really is appealing. It's nice to feel like the organization and providers are really giving holistic care and providing us with resources. So really try and think as the patient as well. Community health services could be really profitable and really successful for the entire community, really cultivating strong relationships. The next area of service I recommend expediting investment in is ambulatory services. And we are seeing industry-wide growth in outpatient services. I think this organization should hop on the bandwagon with that, so to speak. From 2005 to 2015, so over the course of 10 years, outpatient facilities, which include urgent care centers, surgery centers, retail clinics, all rose by 14%, which is pretty large. So this is an area of healthcare that is on the rise, and I think the organization should take advantage of this. I think we could profit and benefit from this, and also benefit the community from this. This area of service really has potential for being a profitable revenue source to increase increase operation margins. We are also seeing increased demand for outpatient care post-COVID. A lot of patients are trying to catch up on their treatments that they missed over the last couple of years, and demand is really outpacing supply here. So if we can increase our supply, we can certainly make more profits from this and meet those demands. And also, being in a college town, there's a high population of young students who may need these ambulatory services. And as someone who went to school far from home, running back for doctor's appointments every time I got sick or every time I needed a regular checkup was not always attainable for me. So given this town's demographics, I really, and as well as the industry's current movements, I think ambulatory service is really a lucrative area to invest in right now. And It's also an area of healthcare that isn't as intimidating or costly, which I think will really entice prospective patients. It's nice having a outpatient facility where patients can go rather than, a large, scary hospital building. So I think that this could be a lucrative investment for the organization. The third and final area of service that I recommend being implemented right away is cardiovascular services. This is mainly because capital acquisition will be relatively easy as investor interest is currently on a rise right now. And this is primarily because cardiologists are migrating away from hospital care and expanding ancillary services. This allows them to meet increasing patient demand in addition to lowering cost of care. So this would not only improve our cardiovascular services, but also our outpatient services. And getting capital should be relatively easy with investors being so interested in this movement right now. Also, health disease has long been a leading cause of death in the U.S., and this is a major public health concern that I think the organization should really strive to target and mitigate. As you can see on that graph to the right of the slide there, especially in our elderly population, this is a lot of individuals suffering from some type of heart disease, and many also dying from this. So I really think that the organization could not only benefit the community, but also I think you could benefit from profitability as well. Now let's talk about the possible obstacles that the organization may face during implementation of these projects. A big one for me is liquidity. I think that this is going to be a concern for projects because it is so necessary. Although the balance sheet analysis showed improvements, any issues with liquidity will make any improvements very difficult and unattainable. Also, equipment and building maintenance expenses were extremely high that we did see being reported on the financial statements as well. And major projects risk increasing expenditures, possibly lowering profit margins if we can't generate enough revenue from these projects. So we need to make sure that we're getting enough profit for the expenses incurred to be worth it. Also, right now, current financial conditions, the world we live in, the entire industry is facing the wrath of economic instability and high inflation rates. So this is certainly something to keep in mind when moving forward with any projects. This can really impact the time value of money and the uncertainty of any possible investments that we make. So this is important to really keep in mind. To offset some of these potential issues, we will focus on less capital-intensive projects like community health services. Therefore, less debt acquisition is required and liquidity shouldn't be as big of a factor. We are also going to focus on enhancements or projects with a capacity to be a high revenue source. Hopefully this will improve cash inflow and reduce liquidity strain. And to combat those high inflation rates, we will ensure they're less than the return on the investments to prevent any loss of purchasing power. My financial predictions, I really think these projects will lead to a positive trend in operating revenue, with outpatient services being a major source of this. This will subsequently increase the organization's operating margin, which is really good. I think we will see improvements to liquidity with assets increasing and liabilities decreasing. A liability, I think we will see a big reduction in his long-term debt obligations as well as we begin to see more cash inflow. In closing, I would like to note that the projects presented will preserve the organization's commitment to its community's wellness, with education and holistic support being a priority. I think these projects will allow for outpatient services to thrive and become a major source of revenue. I am recommending projects with a high profitability potential, with a lower level of risk, with minimal capital requirements, and a sustainable industry profile. I believe these projects suggested will foster a good relationship with patients and community members, which will set the organization up for long-term success.